Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the stillness of the bathroom, I gaze at an unfamiliar yet kindred reflection. The countertop, my sanctuary, bears mascara, eyeshadow, and a sleek eyeliner pen. Even the atmosphere is an ally, silent and tranquil. With a practiced steadiness, I sweep the eyeliner across my eyelid, crafting a precise cat eye, a ritual perfected over weeks. There, in the mirror, an enigma unfolds. Jeffrey on the surface, but under it, a metamorphosis, an emergence. Lila. Not touche, I murmur, captivated by my hazel eyes, enhanced with the perfect eyeliner stroke. My gaze lingers, seeing not merely a reflection, but a hint of the self I yearn to reveal. His blonde hair was growing out now, just past his ears, styled tonight with a slight wave that softened his features. The cosmetics weren't his. They belonged to his sister Renee, who had left them behind during her last visit. Jeffrey had carefully organized everything in a shoebox that he kept hidden beneath his bed, making sure to return each item to its proper place when she visited. The ritual had been going on for months now. Borrow, practice, return, repeat. Tonight, he'd gone further than usual. The red dress hanging on the back of the bathroom door beckoned. It was another loan from Renee's wardrobe, taken with silent permission when she mentioned she never wore it anymore. The fabric felt cool as he slipped it over his head, adjusting it over his slender frame. The transformation was striking, not complete, but enough to make his heart race with recognition.
"This is me,"
he whispered, smoothing the material over his hips.
"This is Lila."
These private moments were becoming more frequent and more necessary. The hours spent alone in his apartment, dressed in clothes that felt right, were the only times he truly felt at peace. Tonight, the exhaustion of maintaining two separate selves weighed heavily. After practicing makeup techniques from online tutorials for 3 hours straight, Jeffrey's eyes grew heavy. He stumbled to his desk, still wearing the red dress, intending to check his work schedule before bed. The computer screen glowed in the dark room as he pulled up his calendar, confirming his morning meeting. 8 a.m., sharp, marketing presentation, new clients. Sleep overcame him before he could return to the bathroom to remove the makeup. His head drooped forward, cheek pressed against the keyboard, as darkness claimed him. The harsh beeping of his alarm jolted him awake. Disoriented, Jeffrey blinked at the bright numbers. 7:15 a.m. "Shit!" he gasped, jumping up. The dress was wrinkled from sleeping in it. He had exactly 15 minutes to get to work before the staff meeting. His boss, Michelle, had emphasized punctuality for this particular gathering. Potential investors would be there. In a frantic rush, Jeffrey tore off the red dress and grabbed the first presentable outfit from his closet, navy slacks and a white button-down shirt. He splashed water on his face, brushed his teeth, and combed his fingers through his blonde hair. The mirror showed tired eyes and stubble that needed attention, but there wasn't time. He grabbed his laptop bag and keys, racing out the door and down the stairs to the street. The October morning was cool, and people hurried along the sidewalk with coffee cups clutched in gloved hands. Jeffrey jogged the 3 blocks to the office building, slipping through the revolving door at precisely 7:58 a.m. The elevator seemed purposely slow this morning. Jeffrey straightened his tie and smoothed his hair, mentally reviewing his portion of the presentation. When the doors opened on the 12th floor, he strode confidently toward the conference room, nodding at coworkers who were already gathered around the long table.
Cutting it close,
whispered Damon, his closest work friend.
Michelle's been asking for you.
Traffic, Jeffrey lied, sliding into a chair and opening his laptop. He could feel eyes on him, but attributed it to his near tardiness. Michelle entered the room, her tailored gray suit and commanding presence drawing everyone's attention. Good morning, team. Let's get started with the quarterly projections. Jeffrey, you'll be up after Patricia's market analysis. He nodded, avoiding direct eye contact. Something felt off. Several colleagues kept glancing his way, then quickly looking down at their notepads or phones. Had he forgotten something important? Was his shirt wrinkled? He discreetly checked his appearance, finding nothing obviously amiss. The meeting progressed, with Patricia detailing consumer trends and market shifts. Jeffrey tried to focus, but the persistent stares were distracting. Even Michelle kept looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite decipher. When his turn came, Jeffrey connected his laptop to the projector and began his presentation on the new advertising campaign. He felt more confident now, in his element discussing strategy and creative direction. Yet throughout his 15-minute segment, he noticed Michelle's gaze repeatedly fixing on his face with unusual intensity. Thank you, Jeffrey, she said when he finished. Very comprehensive work. Let's take a 10-minute break before we continue. As people filtered out for coffee, Michelle approached his seat. Jeffrey, could I speak with you privately for a moment? His stomach tightened. Of course. They stepped into her office, a corner space with windows overlooking the city. She closed the door and turned to face him. Is everything all right? She asked, her tone surprisingly gentle.
Yes,
he replied cautiously. Why do you ask? Michelle hesitated, then gestured toward her own eyes. Your eyeliner, it's very dramatic today. Jeffrey froze. His hand involuntarily flew to his face, fingers touching the skin around his eyes. In his rush to get to work, he had completely forgotten about the cat eye makeup he'd perfected the night before. Words failed him as panic rose in his chest. It actually looks good, Michelle continued, her expression softening. Makes your eyes pop. I just thought you might want to know it's there, especially before the client meeting. You might want to tone it down a bit for them. They're rather conservative. Jeffrey's mind raced through possible explanations. A costume party? An acting class? Nothing seemed plausible at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was trying something, he finally managed, his voice barely audible. Michelle nodded. We all experiment. The bathroom's down the hall if you want to adjust it. Take your time. She opened the door, signaling the end of their conversation, but paused before leaving. For what it's worth, you've got a steadier hand than I do. I can never get both sides even. Left alone in her office, Jeffrey breathed deeply, trying to process what had just happened. His secret, or at least part of it, was exposed. Not in the way he'd ever imagined, not on his terms or with his preparation. Yet Michelle's reaction hadn't been disgust or ridicule. She'd been matter-of-fact, even complimentary. In the bathroom, he stared at his reflection. The cat eyeliner was indeed perfect, symmetrical, bold, and striking against his fair skin. It transformed his face, highlighting cheekbones he hadn't realized were so defined. For a moment, he saw Lila clearly in the mirror, not just as a fantasy or private persona, but as a possibility. His hands trembled as he reached for a paper towel. He could wet it, wipe away the evidence, and return to being just Jeffrey. No one would mention it again. The incident would fade into office folklore, perhaps emerging as a joke at next year's holiday party. He could laugh it off, claim it was a dare or a mistake. But something stopped him. The person in the mirror looked right. The eyeliner wasn't a costume or a mistake. It was a revelation. Jeffrey lowered his hand. Instead of removing the makeup completely, he simply softened the lines, making them more subtle but still present. This small act of defiance, or perhaps acceptance, sent his heart racing. When he returned to the conference room, he felt the weight of eyes again, but differently now. He had chosen this visibility, limited as it was. The remainder of the meeting passed in a blur of presentations and discussions, with Jeffrey contributing where needed, but mostly observing the reactions around him. Damon caught up with him afterward in the break room.
Bold choice today,
he said, pouring coffee into a mug.
It was an accident,
Jeffrey replied, testing the waters.
Happy accident, then. Suits you.
Damon shrugged, adding sugar to his coffee.
My girlfriend would kill for that technique. Takes her forever to get it right.
The casual acceptance was unexpected and warming. Throughout the day, Jeffrey received a few curious glances but no negative comments. One female colleague even asked what brand of eyeliner he used because it hadn't smudged all day. That evening, alone in his apartment, Jeffrey stared at his reflection again. The makeup had faded slightly but was still visible, a shadow of what had been there that morning. Instead of removing it, he reached for the eyeliner pen and reapplied it, this time with deliberate intention.
Hello, Lila,
he whispered to the mirror. The accidental revelation had shifted something fundamental. What had been a private exploration now felt like a tentative step into a possible future. Over the next few weeks, Jeffrey began making subtle changes to his appearance at work. A clear coat of nail polish one day, a slightly more fitted shirt the next. Small silver stud earrings appeared after a weekend visit to a piercing salon. Each change was met with varying degrees of notice, but no outright rejection. Michelle even complimented the earrings, saying they complemented his face shape. Damon remained steadfastly nonchalant, treating Jeffrey the same as always. 2 months after the eyeliner incident, Jeffrey scheduled a meeting with Michelle. Her office was warmer in the winter light, the city beyond the windows gray and cold. She greeted him with a smile, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. "What can I do for you, Jeffrey?" He had rehearsed this conversation countless times, but now that the moment was here, his carefully prepared words scattered like leaves in wind.
I wanted to talk to you about me,
he began, his voice steadier than he expected.
About some changes that are happening.
Michelle leaned forward slightly, giving him her full attention.
I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of exploring, he continued. For a long time, I've known that that the person I am inside doesn't match who I appear to be.
Understanding dawned in Michelle's eyes, but she remained silent, allowing him to proceed at his own pace.
I'm planning to transition,
he said finally.
I've started therapy, and I'm working with doctors to begin the process. I wanted you to know because it will eventually become visible, and I'm hoping to start presenting as myself at work, as Lila.
The name hung in the air between them, real and spoken aloud to another person for the first time. Michelle nodded slowly. Thank you for trusting me with this, Lila. What can I do to support you through this process? The use of her name, her real name, brought unexpected tears to Lila's eyes. She blinked them back, overwhelmed by the simple acceptance. I'd like to transition gradually at work, she explained. Start presenting more femininely, eventually change my name officially. I understand if there are HR procedures or... We'll work through all of that, Michelle assured her. I'll arrange a meeting with HR to discuss the practical aspects, but please know that your position here is secure. Your work is valued, and that doesn't change with your name or appearance. The relief was physical, a weight lifting that Lila hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Thank you, she whispered. May I ask a personal question? Michelle's tone was gentle. Lila nodded. Was the eyeliner day truly an accident? A small laugh escaped Lila's lips. Complete accident. I fell asleep at my desk after practicing makeup and forgot it was there in the morning rush. Michelle smiled. Sometimes accidents reveal our truths. I'm glad it happened. In the weeks that followed, Lila began her gradual workplace transition. First came more noticeable makeup, then clothing that subtly shifted toward the feminine, blouses instead of button-downs, slacks with a different cut. Her blonde hair continued growing, now styled in a way that framed her face softly. HR was supportive, working with her to develop a transition plan that included an email to staff explaining her identity and name change, along with resources for colleagues who might have questions. Most importantly, it emphasized respect and continued professional treatment. 3 months later, Lila attended her first meeting in a dress, a modest navy blue garment with 3/4 sleeves and a knee-length hem. She had agonized over the choice, wanting to be true to herself while maintaining professionalism. Her makeup was subtle but feminine, and a delicate silver necklace adorned her neck. Entering the conference room that morning was one of the hardest things she'd ever done. Conversations paused briefly as people noticed her, but resumed almost immediately. Damon, true to form, simply pulled out the chair next to him and launched into a complaint about the coffee machine being broken again. Michelle began the meeting with a casual introduction. For those who haven't had a chance to read the company-wide email, Lila will be using she/her pronouns going forward. Now, let's discuss the Johnson account. The simplicity of it, this monumental change in her life, treated as an ordinary administrative announcement, brought a lump to Lila's throat. The meeting progressed normally, with colleagues addressing her as Lila without hesitation. When it was her turn to present, her voice shook slightly at first, but steadied as she focused on the familiar territory of marketing analytics. Afterward, Patricia approached her by the elevator. "That dress is perfect on you," she said. "The color really brings out your eyes." "Thank you," Lila replied, smoothing the fabric self-consciously. "I was nervous about wearing it." "You shouldn't be. It's very professional," Patricia assured her. "Would you like to join us for lunch? A group is heading to that new place around the corner." The invitation, so casual yet so significant, was the final confirmation Lila needed. This was working. This was possible. She was being seen as herself. "I'd love to," she said. Lunch with colleagues as Lila rather than Jeffrey was surreal at first. She was hyper-aware of every movement, every word, fearful of doing something that would break the spell of acceptance. But as the meal progressed, surrounded by the usual office banter and complaints about deadlines, Lila gradually relaxed.
"How's your sister?"
Damon asked between bites of sandwich. "Still traveling?" The question startled her, this normal continuation of conversations they'd had before.
"She's in Barcelona now," Lila answered, "sending me pictures of tapas every day to make me jealous. Tell her to bring you back one of those flowy floral dresses they sell in the markets there," he suggested. "Would suit you." The casual acceptance of her identity, the assumption that of course she would wear dresses now, warmed her from within. Spring arrived,
bringing with it 6 months of hormone therapy that had begun to soften Lila's features and body. Her blonde hair now reached her shoulders, often styled in loose waves. The company had updated her email, business cards, and nameplate. Clients who had known Jeffrey were briefly informed that Lila would be their contact moving forward, with minimal explanation needed or offered. There were challenges, of course. The occasional slip of pronouns, the client who looked confused upon meeting her, the distant relative who stopped returning calls. But these were outweighed by the profound relief of living authentically, of the daily miracle of being addressed as Ms. Bennett, or hearing her name called in a coffee shop and responding without hesitation. 1 year after the fateful eyeliner incident, Lila was preparing for a major presentation to potential investors. The company had grown significantly, and this meeting could determine their expansion plans for the next fiscal year. She chose her outfit carefully, a floral dress in soft greens and blues, paired with a structured white blazer that gave the ensemble a professional edge. Her makeup was polished, but not overdone. Foundation, a touch of blush, mascara, and yes, a perfect cat eyeliner, now executed with practiced ease. As she stood at the front of the conference room, pointer in hand and confidence in her voice, Lila caught Michelle's approving nod from the corner table. The journey from that panicked morning to this moment had been complicated, painful at times, but ultimately transformative. As you can see from these projections, Lila continued, gesturing to the screen behind her, our market share has increased by 27% in the targeted demographics. The investors were engaged, asking insightful questions that Lila answered with expertise. Her knowledge hadn't changed with her appearance. Her skills remained valuable. What had changed was the harmony between her inner and outer selves, the energy no longer wasted on maintaining a facade. After the successful presentation, Michelle pulled her aside. The investors were impressed. We're likely to get the full funding request. That's fantastic news, Lila replied, relief evident in her voice. They particularly mentioned your presentation skills, Michelle added. Said you seemed authentic and confident. Lila couldn't help but laugh at the irony. Authentic? If they only knew how long that took. You should be proud, Michelle said, her tone serious. Not just of the work, but of everything you've accomplished this year. Later that evening, as Lila prepared to leave the office, Damon appeared at her cubicle. A bunch of us are going out to celebrate the investor meeting. You coming? Absolutely, she said, gathering her things. Where to? That new place on 7th. Fancy cocktails, supposedly excellent appetizers. Oh, and Colin might join us later. You know, from accounting. He asked if you'd be there. Lila raised an eyebrow. Did he now? Don't act surprised, Damon teased. He's been finding excuses to visit marketing ever since you explained the new campaign budget to him. The possibility of romance, something Lila had put aside during the intensity of her transition, suddenly felt real and approachable. Colin was new to the company, had only ever known her as Lila, and his warm smiles whenever they passed in the hallway had not gone unnoticed. In that case, she said, applying a fresh coat of lipstick, I'll definitely be there. The bar was elegant but relaxed, with ambient lighting and comfortable seating. Lila joined her colleagues, accepting their congratulations on the presentation with genuine pleasure. When Colin arrived an hour later, his eyes immediately found hers across the room.
Mind if I join you?
He asked, approaching her table. Please do, she replied, gesturing to the empty chair beside her. Their conversation flowed easily, touching on work but quickly moving to shared interests in film and travel. There was a comfort in his presence, in the way he listened attentively and laughed at her dry observations.
I hope this isn't too forward,
he said eventually.
but would you like to have dinner sometime? Just the two of us?
The question sparked both excitement and apprehension. Dating as Lila was uncharted territory, filled with new considerations and potential complications. I'd like that, she replied, making a decision to embrace this next step. But there are some things about my life you should probably know. Colin's expression remained open.
I'm a good listener.
They arranged to meet that weekend, and as they rejoined the larger group conversation, Lila felt a sense of possibility opening before her. The journey that had begun with an accidental eyeliner reveal had led her here, to authentic relationships, meaningful work, and the freedom to pursue a future aligned with her true self. Later that night, in the quiet of her apartment, Lila stood before the mirror. The reflection that gazed back was finally her own, blonde hair framing a face that hormone therapy had gently reshaped, eyes that held both the wisdom of struggle and the light of self-acceptance. On her dresser sat a small shoebox, no longer hidden beneath the bed. Inside were the first cosmetics she had borrowed from her sister, now replaced with her own collection. She picked up the eyeliner pen, not the original, which had long since been used up, but its successor. "Thank you," she whispered to it, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. The accidental reveal had been the first domino, setting in motion a cascade of changes that eventually brought her life into alignment. There would be more challenges ahead, more growth and adjustment, but Lila faced the future without the weight of pretense. The staff meeting that had once seemed like a potential disaster had instead been the catalyst for her emergence into authenticity. She placed the eyeliner back in its proper place, turned off the light, and moved forward into her continuing story.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!